So as we are rocking up to 2 years of the release of Final Fantasy XVI this year, I decided to double dip and got a key cheap on the internet somewhere and picked up Final Fantasy XVI on Steam. I originally played it a couple of years ago on PS5 and I had a great time with it then, and I'm having a great time with it now. Unfortunately though, because it's not really that much different. It's basically similar to the other Final Fantasies that came out just before it, i.e. Final Fantasy 15 and 13 and 12, etc. Because although Final Fantasy 16's combat is essentially like Devil May Cry, which in my opinion is incredibly awesome, especially with the more Aeons, the more summons that you unlock, like Garuda. You start with Ifrit, you get Garuda, Titan, Ramu and all that kind of stuff. You can pull off some pretty cool combos and customize the movesets that Clive has. But apart from the combat, the rest of the game, is it not Final Fantasy? Of course it's Final Fantasy. The title and thumbnail of this video are meant to be sarcasm. This Final Fantasy 16 is 100% a decent Final Fantasy, exactly the same as all the others. I'm glad that they're trying to something new, and for a lot of people complaining, I did notice in a lot of the Steam reviews that people are saying that this is one of the worst mainline Final Fantasy games. Obviously, you are entitled to think that. That's your opinion. I think, on my opinion, you're wrong, because how is it one of the worst mainline Final Fantasies? Now, I like all of the mainline Final Fantasies for individual reasons. Final Fantasy VII is my favourite, and I've stated that many times, especially along with the remake and Final Fantasy Rebirth. Both they are phenomenal. They, in my opinion, are the best Final Fantasies that you can play. However, a lot of people really like Final Fantasy X, which I am actually playing through again on my Steam Deck, and I'm just munching through it. Now, I really like 10. I don't think it's one of the best. In fact, there's a lot of things I think mostly is because 10 was the Final Fantasy that a lot of people played first. So I think nostalgia plays a part in 10, because 10 is incredibly linear, like supremely linear, just like the first half of Final Fantasy 13. And just like here with Final Fantasy 16. Final Fantasy 16 starts off linear and then opens up, and there are side quests and monster hunts that you can do as well, and a decent world to explore. Now, although the side quests in 16 aren't the best side quests in the world, they're not Witcher 3 level side quests at all in the slightest, but what they do is they bring the world to life, in that it explains to you like how bearers are treated and other such things. And there's also some side quests that you have to do to unlock your Chocobo, for example, and that's fine. I'm not expecting Witcher level side quests in every single game. I mean, that's wishful thinking right there. But Final Fantasy 16 is a phenomenal game. Not only does it look amazing, it does. Well, for me, obviously, this is all my opinion. Okay, I'm not saying that this is it. This is the be all end all, and if you don't like it, you're wrong. Not at all. I'm just saying this from my opinion. But it's a sad state of affairs in 2025 when we have to state it's our opinion, when logically, of course, it's my opinion because I'm a singular entity telling you how I feel about the game. Okay, we got that out of the way. Yeah, we know that. So Final Fantasy 16 has a great story with Clive, and he's a brilliant protagonist because he's flawed. He's not a he's a little bit brooding, but he's not like Cloud, for example. Now, I love Cloud Strife, but Clive Rosfield he feels a lot of guilt for something he believed he did, so he cries, he's vulnerable, he is very open with people, he's very emotional and all that, so he's a very interesting lead character, and his relationship with Jill and Joshua and Sid and all the other characters going through the game is just very fun to watch, and watch him grow and become sort of like his father, which is really awesome. And again, with that, with the world setting as well, and the storyline and the boss fights are phenomenal. The combat, like I said, is great. There's even some reviews on Steam that are claiming it has no RPG elements whatsoever. They are talking right out of their rectum with that one, because Final Fantasy 16, of course, has RPG elements. You level Clive up, and you have a sort of skill tree with the so you use these points that you unlock by fighting, and then you use them to unlock more moves and then master said moves with Clive. There's the Final Fantasy mode. There's all the different music that you can listen to as well, and there's like a separate lore page that you can find out everything about the world and the world setting as well. It's a phenomenal game and well worth playing. On a note of the PC port, it is a typical Square Enix port. It's not the best. It's frame rate wise is not stable whatsoever, and I mean, for me personally, I think at the start of 2026 I'm going to upgrade. I'm going to get a new computer. I think it's time for me to get a new computer, and because the one I have is still decent. Now I've got an RTX 3060 12GB card, which, you know, it's not the best card in the world, but I get by. If a game is actually optimized, I can run games solidly, because I've got a Ryzen 7 5900X, and I've got a 32 gig of RAM, and of course NVMe SSD and all that kind of stuff. So for the most part, 90% of the time I can run games absolutely fine, pretty much maxed out and solid frame rates. Like, I'm also playing through Ghost of Tsushima on PC. That game is ported amazingly. That game works incredible. I've pretty much got that maxed out and running at solid 60. I mean, I can have them running higher, but I just I don't mind. I'm happy with just 60. 60 frames per second does me. You know, I'm not super greedy. My monitor's refresh rate, I think, is 144, so I can have up to that with most games, but 60 will do me. So, should you check out Final Fantasy 16 if you haven't on Steam? I'd say absolutely 100% yes. However, if you are super unsure, and even if you're not unsure, I would always recommend waiting for a sale and buy the complete edition if you can, because then you get the Buster Sword, which you can see in this gameplay footage, you can rock. And the Buster Sword obviously is awesome because, well, I have a replica of it in real life as well because I'm that damn nerdy. But Final Fantasy 16 is not a bad game, it's not a terrible game whatsoever, it's a very good game. Does it make it a game that everyone will love and should love? Absolutely not, each to their own. But as a lifelong Final Fantasy player, and I've played every Final Fantasy going and completed most, I have to say Final Fantasy 16 still ranks in the top 3 Final Fantasies for me of all time. It's a really damn good game, and it's a game that I will always keep returning to and playing, exactly the same as 7 and Rebirth and Remake and 6 and all that kind of stuff. It really is a damn good game. And if linearity is something people are complaining about, yet they like Final Fantasy X, that's a little hypocritical, because like I said, Final Fantasy X is linear to the nth degree. I still like 10, I think it's got cool character in Tidus. I'm not saying Tidus. No matter what people want, I'm saying Tidus. His name is spelled Tidus. The game is obsessed with water for some reason, and Tide, it just makes sense. So I'm saying Tidus, and I like Wakka and all the other characters as well. It is a good game. Final Fantasy 13 is still a good game. It's very linear, and you know, it has really cool characters in Lightning and Snow and whatnot, but it's linear again. And in terms of the not being turn-based, Final Fantasy 12 wasn't really turn-based. That was more like a offline MMO, but I really like 12. But a lot of people tend to hate things about that as well. There's all different things in all the different Final Fantasies for someone. It doesn't make one worse and terrible. In terms of bad games, the Final Fantasy 16, it's not Suicide Squad, it's not Daikatana, you know, it's not a terrible game at all in the slightest. It's a very, very good game, but it just might not gel with you because, you know, your preferences to the Final Fantasy series. If you like turn-based stuff, this game is not going to be for you. But if you like a hodgepodge of Devil May Cry mixed with Final Fantasy, that's what you get here. It has Final Fantasy music, it has Final Fantasy themes like crystals, and the icons like Shiva and Titan and Ifrit and the Phoenix and all that. They're all there as well. There's also the Cactuars as well. They're running around, and other monsters as well. The Moogles are there as well. This is very much a Final Fantasy with Chocobos, the lot. This is a Final Fantasy, and it is a fantastic mainline Final Fantasy game. But anyway, so that's me defending Final Fantasy 16. But like I said, if you've made it this far into the video, I am not saying that if you don't like it, you are wrong. Absolutely not. There's just something that's been lacking these days from games and from movies as well, and that's basically looking at the broader picture. I can appreciate a game even if I don't like it. So I can say, oh, look, Marvel Rivals, I've obviously done no coverage on Marvel Rivals, I've never played it. But I just look at it and I'm like, yeah, it's not for me, but a lot of people are really enjoying it, so go nuts, knock yourself out. What I don't do is just because I don't like it, make a video and go, oh, this game is terrible. Not at all. That's not what I do. Above all things, I like to think that I'm somewhat sensible. But please let me know down below what you think of Final Fantasy 16, and as always, thank you very much for watching.